What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, and in this video, we're going to be discussing my top 5 pros and cons about the Moto E 2020. So let's get started. So these are my Moto E 2020 pros and cons. Let's first start by going over the top 5 pros. Coming in at number 1 is the processor. The Moto E 2020 features a very fast processor, especially for a phone in this price range. The device features the Qualcomm Snapdragon 632, and that is a considerable upgrade compared to last year's Moto E6, which gave us the Qualcomm Snapdragon 435. Now, I did do a benchmark test here with the phone, and I'm very pleased with the score overall. I did get an overall score of 119,123. So that is certainly very impressive for a device in this price range. In fact, much better than many other phones I've used at this price. Now currently the device is being offered for $149.99, but definitely take a look at the link in the video description to see the most up-to-date pricing, because it certainly is possible that the price has gone down over time. But in general, I feel like Motorola really is giving us a lot of value here by giving us the 632, considering how affordable this phone is. The second pro with the Moto E 2020 is that we have a fingerprint sensor on the back. So last year's Moto E6 did not have a fingerprint sensor, so this is a new added feature with the device, and it's very fast, it works very well. The placement of it is also very convenient, so I certainly am glad to see that they did give us this feature. Now, if you've never used a phone with a fingerprint sensor on the back, just know that it does actually feel very natural. The location of it is where my index finger typically is, so this is certainly a much better method of unlocking the phone compared to putting in a PIN code. My third favorite thing with the Moto E 2020 is the display. So with the phone, we're getting a very large display at 6.2 inches. In addition to that, the display itself is IPS LCD. It is 720p, which of course is a downgrade from 1080p. But for a phone in this price range, 720p is certainly to be expected, and it does get the job done. We're getting a PPI here of 271, a 19:9 aspect ratio, and a 78.4% screen-to-body ratio. Another great thing about this display too is that you're getting very good colors here. So if you're watching videos on it, or looking at photos, or even going on social media like Instagram for example, the content really is gonna pop. My fourth favorite thing about the Moto E 2020 is that we're getting a dual camera module on the back. So we're getting a 13 megapixel main camera, and we're getting a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera so that you can take portrait mode photos with the phone. I'm really glad to see that. Certainly nice that we can take portrait mode images with the device, because I know that feature is very popular with many people. And my fifth favorite thing about the phone is how loud the speakers get. Now, considering that this is a very low-end, inexpensive device, my expectations before getting it were pretty low. I wasn't expecting it to be very loud, and while it certainly isn't the loudest phone I've ever used, the speaker quality here is actually quite good. Back to how things were again by double pressing on that home button. So you'll have no issue sitting on the couch or laying in bed and watching video content on here and being able to listen to audio through the speaker on here. So the speaker quality is certainly adequate, and it definitely does get very loud. I also like that the speaker quality is not too tinny either, as that's something that I do see a lot, unfortunately, with phones in this price range. Now, those are my top 5 favorite things about the phone. Now, there are many other things I like about it too, and definitely stay tuned for my full review video, as I'll go over all of those in that video. But let's now switch things up and go over the cons with the Moto E 2020. Now, keep in mind that I like this phone. I certainly don't think it's a bad device. And these 5 cons that I'm about to go over could be kind of nitpicking, but again, I wanted to come up with the 5 worst things about the phone, so at least you know what you're getting into when you buy it. And the first con is that we're only getting 2 gigabytes of RAM. Seriously, Motorola, this is 2020. 2 gigs of RAM in 2020 is really not that impressive at all. Now, thankfully, since the processor is so good, you are gonna get good performance with the device in general. But I really would have liked to see at least 3 gigs of RAM with the device. I don't even think it would have cost Motorola too much more to include that. The second con with the Moto E 2020 is that we're getting micro USB. Now this is something that I'm certainly not happy about, as I'm a big fan of USB-C. I've been replacing all of my cables, with USB-C cables, because that's the future. Micro USB, that's something of the past. But unfortunately, this phone has micro USB on the bottom. So I really would have liked to see this phone with USB-C so that I can use all of my USB-C cables with it. And putting micro USB in this device is another one of those things that I feel like they're not really saving that much money. I mean, come on. I can't imagine it would cost any more than like $1 to include USB-C with the phone. But for some reason, they couldn't justify doing it. The third con with the Moto E 2020 is the notch at the top. So water drop notches are kind of an old school thing in 2020. That was more of a design trend from 2019 and 2018. So while it doesn't get in the way too much, I do wish we got a hole punch for the front facing camera instead. It would have given the device a little bit more of a cleaner look, and it would have made it look a lot more similar to the Samsung Galaxy A11, which is one of this phone's competitors. The fourth con with the Moto E 2020 is that there's no face unlock. Now, the Moto E6 also didn't have face unlock, but there are other devices in this price range that do have that feature. Now, before people say it, there indeed is not face unlock. There definitely is not face unlock with this phone, so don't say that there is, because there is not. And smart lock, by the way, is not face unlock. That is a totally different feature. So there is no way to unlock the phone with your face. Now, thankfully, of course, we have that fingerprint sensor, which does work very well, nice and fast and responsive. So in general, I don't think it's a deal breaker that there's no face unlock, but it would have been nice to see anyway. And finally, for the last con with the Moto E 2020, I feel like the corners on this device are just too rounded. What is the point of this? Why do they have to be rounded? Especially when we already have quite a bit of bezel around the phone anyway. I would have liked to just see them squared off. Now I know that rounded corners on a device is a design trend that Apple started with the iPhone X, and they've continued to implement it into their iPhones even now, but I don't see the advantage of it. You're just losing out on more space in your display, and I suppose it makes the device look a little bit more sleek, but I'm more of a function over look kind of person, and I would have liked to see these squared off. So that's something I wish they would have done with this phone. But in general, I'm a big fan of the device. Those are my pros and cons, and I'm really curious to know what you think about them, and if you agree or disagree. But again, I like the phone a lot. I think it's a very nice upgrade compared to the Moto E6. You should definitely check out my comparison between this device and that device, as there have been many improvements over the 1-year span between the two phones. And in general, I think Motorola did a really good job with this device. Now, it certainly is possible that the price tag of the phone has gone down since I made this video, so definitely make sure to check out the link in the video description to see the most up-to-date pricing. But I hope you enjoyed this video. My name is Kevin, this is the Moto E 2020, and I will see you in the next one.